hit that like button and subscribe.
Okay, let's unpack this. Usually when we sit down for a deep dive, we are looking at a stack of research papers, maybe some market analysis, or a heavy nonfiction book.
Hard data.
Hard data, exactly. We deal in things like, I don't know, the history of the transistor or the geopolitical implications of water rights. But
Today's different.
today represents a bit of a departure for us.
It is a departure, and frankly, I think it's a necessary one. We're often so obsessed with the what of information, the data points, the statistics, that we forget to look at the how.
The how.
How do we process that reality? How does the lens we wear, the framework we use, change the world we see?
Exactly. So our source material today is a narrative. It's a short story titled The Mathematics of an Irrational Best Friend.
Uh-huh.
Now, before anyone reaches for the skip button thinking we're doing like a dramatic reading of a bedtime story, hold on.
This isn't that kind of show.
This text is essentially a simulation. It's a conflict engine.
That's a great way to put it, a thought experiment. It's a story, yes, but it's structured almost like a lab report. It posits a control group and an experimental variable.
Right. We have two characters entering a very common, very high-stress environment, an animal shelter. First, we have Dave.
A control group.
Dave is the control group. Dave is us. He's the baseline human. He looks at the world and sees functional emotional connections. He wants a dog because he wants a friend.
Simple as that. He sees a wagging tail and thinks joy.
And then we have Pi. Pi is the outlier.
The variable.
The variable that throws the whole equation off. Pi doesn't just see the world. Pi decodes it. Pi views reality strictly through the lens of high-level mathematics, physics, and statistical probability.
It's the ultimate clash of worldviews, isn't it?
It really is. Emotional pragmatism versus cold, hard, theoretical abstraction. And our mission today is to walk through this story scene by scene, literally reading the text and then stopping to debug the reality these two characters are experiencing.
I like that. Debugging reality.
We want to analyze what happens when you try to apply rigorous mathematical logic to one of the most emotional, messy decisions a human can make, picking a pet.
And I think the core question we're going to wrestle with is about framing. We tend to think that analyzing something mathematically strips the magic away. If you explain a rainbow as just light refraction, is it still beautiful?
That's the classic question.
Does stripping the emotion out of the world make it colder? Or, as we might discover today, does seeing the math actually make the world more beautiful, perhaps even infinitely so?
I love that setup. So let's jump right into the source material. We begin at the threshold. The scene opens at the shelter entrance. I want to read this opening beat because it establishes the sensory baseline for everything that follows.
Go for it. Let's hear it.
Okay, the text says, the sign above the door read, Happy Tales Animal Shelter. The sound inside was a cacophony of barking, meowing, and the scratching of claws on concrete.
Pretty standard stuff.
Dave saw a room full of potential friends. Pi saw a room full of acoustic chaos.
And right away, there it is. We have that divergence, potential friends versus acoustic chaos.
One is projecting a future relationship.
Yeah.
The other is processing immediate sensory input.
Exactly. And Pi is not handling it well.
Not at all. Listen to this reaction. The decibel levels are fluctuating randomly, Pi shouted over the noise, covering their ears. It's stochastic.
Yeah.
There's no pattern to the barking. It's just noise entropy.
Okay, we have to put a pin in this immediately. Stochastic and noise entropy. These aren't just fancy words for loud.
Yeah, that's not usually what I shout when I walk into a crowded bar. I usually just say, wow, I can't hear myself think.
Right.
But Pi is being very specific. What is the actual distinction between a loud noise and a stochastic noise?
It's a crucial distinction, and it really gets to the heart of how our brains process information. Stochastic comes from probability theory. It refers to a system that is randomly determined.
Okay.
So it's a process that has a random probability distribution that cannot be predicted precisely. There's no underlying signal you can lock onto.
So if the dogs were barking to the beat of, we will rock you, stomp stomp, clap high would be fine, even if it was deafeningly loud.
Theoretically, yes. I mean, it would still be loud, but Pi's brain could handle it because that's a pattern. That's predictable.
Right.
If your brain knows the pattern, it can compress the data. It says, okay, this is a rhythmic beat, and it stops actively processing every single thud. It becomes background noise. But the shelter,
no pattern.
that's high entropy.
Okay, break down entropy for us in this context.
Yeah.
We usually hear it in physics regarding, heat death or messy rooms.
Right, and it's related. In information theory, which was pioneered by Claude Shannon, information is essentially correlated with surprise.
Surprise.
Yeah. If I tell you the sun will rise tomorrow, that's very low information. You already knew that. It's not a surprise.
Yeah.
If I tell you the sun just exploded, that's maximum information.
Got it.
Entropy measures the level of uncertainty or disorder in a system. High entropy means high unpredictability. It means maximum surprise, moment to moment.
So a bark happens, then silence, then a yelp, then a scratch, then 3 barks in a row.
Exactly. Your brain cannot predict the next second. Every single sound is a new, surprising data point. For a mind like Pi's, which is trying to build a model of the environment, this is a complete nightmare.
It's like a computer trying to download a file with no compression.
That's a perfect analogy. It's a denial of service attack on their cognitive processing. The brain is frantically trying to find the algorithm, find the pattern, but there isn't one. It's just raw, uncompressed data flooding the system.
That puts a whole new spin on sensory overload. It's not about volume, it's about bandwidth. Pi is shouting about noise entropy because their processor's maxing out.
Precisely. To Pi, that lack of pattern is physically painful. It represents a system out of control. Information without structure is just noise, and noise is stressful.
Dave, of course, plays the role of the normalizer here. He tries to calm Pi down with what he thinks is a logical argument.
The everyman's argument.
He says, it's just dogs, Pi. Come on. We agree on a dog. Dogs are loyal. Dogs are simple. Dogs are 1 + 1 = 2.
The classic Dave argument. He equates simple with good.
But Pi corrects him immediately.
Yeah.
And this is where the worldview fractures. Pi says, dogs are variables. That one is oscillating. And Pi points to a chihuahua that is, and I quote, vibrating at a high frequency in its cage.
Dogs are variables. I mean, wow, that is such a loaded statement.
Let's unpack Dave's math first. 1 + 1 = 2. Why does he use that specific equation to describe a dog?
It's the comfort of linearity. It's a deterministic system. You put in input A, food and love, and you get output B, loyalty and cuddles.
It's reliable.
It's reliable, it's solvable, it's the same every time. Dave wants a pet to be a constant in his life. A constant in math is a fixed value that doesn't change. It's a rock.
But Pi calls the dog a variable.
Right. In an algebraic expression, a variable like x or y is a placeholder for a number we don't know yet. It can change. It can be anything. It introduces uncertainty.
It introduces risk.
It introduces risk. By calling the dog a variable, Pi is acknowledging that a living creature has agency. It has independent internal states. You cannot fully predict the output.
And then calling the shivering chihuahua oscillating.
That's brilliant. Most of us see a cold, scared dog. We interpret the emotion. Pi sees the physics event.
The raw data.
The raw data. An oscillation is a repetitive variation, typically in time, of some measure about a central value, like a pendulum or a wave. Pi looks at the dog and sees a wave function.
Which is technically true. The dog is moving back and forth around a central point.
It is. But it highlights the gap. Dave is looking for a companion to stabilize his life. Pi looks at a dog and sees a chaos element, a random variable that they're about to introduce into their carefully calculated ecosystem.
So they managed to move past the oscillating variable. They walk down the row of cages and they find what most people, and certainly Dave, would consider the jackpot.
The Holy Grail.
The holy grail of family pets.
The golden retriever.
Exactly. Let me read the description from the story. Dave stopped in front of a kennel housing a golden retriever. The dog sat perfectly still, wagged its tail in a steady rhythm, and looked at them with pure, unadulterated love.
Okay, I can picture it. It's the calendar dog.
It is. Dave's reaction is immediate. He says, he's perfect. Let's name him Buster.
Of course he does. This is the archetype. This is the Honda Civic of dogs. Reliable, standard, holds its value.
But Pi squints at the dog, unimpressed. Pi says, Buster. Dave, look at him. He's too symmetrical.
Too symmetrical. That's not a complaint you hear often. I mean, who complains about that?
Dave's confused, obviously. And Pi explains. Bilateral symmetry. Left side mirrors the right side. Tail wagging at a constant 120 beats per minute. He's an equation that's already been solved.
Wow.
Where's the mystery? Where's the transcendental nature?
This is fascinating territory. First, let's talk about why Dave loves this dog. Bilateral symmetry, having a left side that matches the right, is evolutionarily hardwired into us as a sign of beauty and health.
Right, if a face is symmetrical, it usually means good genes, no parasites, no developmental issues. We're drawn to it.
Exactly. We are programmed to seek symmetry because it signals safety and reproductive viability. Dave looks at that dog and his reptile brain says, safe, good, healthy.
But pi is reacting against that biological programming. Pi calls it an equation that's already been solved.
Think about it in terms of game theory. Tic-tac-toe is a solved game.
Right. It always ends in a draw if you play right.
If two people play perfectly, every game ends in a draw. You know the outcome before you make the first move. It's boring. There is no novelty. There's no discovery.
And pi looks at this golden retriever and sees a game of tic-tac-toe.
Exactly. Input, ball. Output, wag. Input, treat. Output, sit. If you know the answer, why bother with the interaction? Pi craves intellectual stimulation. Pi wants a challenge.
Which is why pi asks for transcendental nature.
Yes.
Can you remind us what a transcendental number is for those of us who haven't opened a calculus textbook in a decade?
Sure. In mathematics, a transcendental number is a real number that is not the root of any non-zero polynomial equation with rational coefficients, which is a mouthful.
A bit, yeah.
The easier way to think about it is that they are numbers you can't pin down with simple algebra. The most famous examples are pi, ironically, and the number e.
And the key characteristic of those numbers.
They are infinite and non-repeating. Their decimal representation goes on forever without ever falling into a repeating pattern. You can never write them down fully. They retain a sense of mystery. They go on forever.
So pi looks at this golden retriever, who is basically a walking 1 + 1 = 2, and feels bored.
Utterly bored.
Pi wants a pet that is like the number. Pi is something that can never be fully resolved.
Pi wants 3D chess played in zero gravity. Dave just wants to play catch.
Speaking of catch, Dave tries to argue. He says, I don't want a transcendental dog. I want a dog that fetches a ball. That's the dream.
A simple dream.
And this sets pi off on a rant that I think destroys the magic of fetch forever.
Or enhances it, depending on your perspective.
Fair point. Pi scoffs and says, fetching is just a parabolic arc. Calculate velocity, account for gravity, intercept object. A calculator could do it. I want a pet that challenges our understanding of space-time.
You know, if you break down the physics of fetch, pi is absolutely right. It is projectile motion 101.
It's the kind of problem you get in high school physics. A boy throws a ball at 30 degrees.
Exactly. You throw the ball, it follows a parabola determined by the initial velocity and the angle of release, acting under the constant acceleration of gravity.
9.8 meters per second squared.
That's the one. The dog's job is simply to solve for x and y in real time.
So the dog has to run at a specific velocity to intercept that parabola at the exact moment altitude equals 0, or, mouth height.
It's actually a complex differential equation that the dog is solving in real time using visual cues.
Yeah.
It's incredibly impressive biology. But Pi's point is, a calculator could do it. It's deterministic physics. There's no magic in gravity. It works the same way every time.
So there's no mystery.
No mystery. Pi wants a pet that defies the standard physics model.
It's the difference between a calculator and a philosopher. Dave wants a companion to play a game with. Pi wants a companion that makes them question the nature of reality.
Which is a remarkably high bar to set for a rescue animal.
It is. So, understandably, Pi wanders off, leaving Dave to mourn the loss of Buster. Dave follows, dragging his feet. They end up in the exotic pet section.
Oh, boy.
And this is where Pi finally finds something that registers as beautiful.
The green python.
A green python. Pi is pressing their face against the glass. Pi says, now this is magnificence. Dave, being the voice of reason, points out, it's a snake, Pi.
And here comes the geometry.
Pi shouts, it's a sine wave, Dave. Look at the curvature. It's a continuous function with no beginning and no end. It's geometry in motion.
I can just picture it. The pure mathematical elegance of a snake moving.
And then Pi proposes a name. We could name him Slinky, but spell it with a sigma.
Okay, we have to talk about the sigma joke, but first, the sine wave.
Yeah, describe that image. Why does a snake look like a sine wave?
A sine wave is a smooth, periodic oscillation. It's that classic wavy line you see on an oscilloscope. It represents a continuous function. And if you look at a snake slithering, the way its muscles contract creates that perfect, repeating S shape. It's fluid.
Compare that to a dog running.
A dog is full of hard angles. Joints bending, paws hitting the ground, impact, recoil. It's mechanical. It's a series of disjointed movements. A snake looks like it's flowing. It looks like pure math. It appeals to Pi's love of continuous functions, mathematical functions where there are no sudden jumps or breaks.
And the name Slinky, spelled with a sigma.
That's a deep cut. The Greek letter sigma is used in math to denote summation, adding things up. It's a series of discrete steps.
Like a dog running.
Exactly. But I think Pi is probably thinking of the shape, which resembles a snake. It's also a nod to the fact that Slinkies, the toy, are helical springs, which are related to sine waves in 3D space. It's a very nerdy, multi-layered joke.
But Dave is not having it. He is a pragmatic survivalist. He says, "We are not getting a pet that can strangle me while I sleep."
A valid concern, generally speaking.
Pi counters with probability. You're so risk-averse? Probability-wise, you're more likely to be injured by falling down the stairs than by a pet python.
And this is the classic actuarial science approach to life. Pi is technically correct. If you look at the statistics, household accidents involving stairs, bathtubs, or ladders vastly outnumber strangulation by pet reptiles.
So why doesn't that comfort Dave? Why doesn't that argument work?
Because of the availability heuristic. It's a cognitive bias. We judge the probability of an event based on how easily we can imagine it or recall examples of it.
So falling downstairs is boring and common.
Right, it's mundane. But Strangled by Python is a horror movie scenario. It's vivid, it's memorable, it triggers the amygdala, the fear center, in a way that stairs just don't.
Dave isn't calculating raw risk. He's calculating fear factor.
Exactly, and Pi fails to understand that human emotions don't follow actuarial tables. You can't just throw statistics at a primal fear.
Dave puts his foot down. He gives a hard constraint, a non-negotiable, he says. I'm not getting a pet without legs. Legs are a requirement, 4 of them, preferably integer-based.
Integer-based. I like that specification. No 3.5 legs allowed. He wants a whole number. He wants to stay in the realm of standard biology. No rounding errors.
So the snake is out, they move to the cat room, and this is where we get into some really fun descriptions of cats through the eyes of a physicist.
The cat room is a goldmine for this kind of analysis. It's a perfect lab.
Pi looks around and notes, better. Cats exhibit liquid properties. They conform to the volume of their container. I appreciate their non-Euclidean flexibility.
Okay, cats are liquids. We see this meme all over the internet, a cat pouring itself into a wine glass or a small box. But is there actual science to it?
I was hoping you'd tell me.
Surprisingly, yes. There is a branch of physics called rheology, the study of the flow of matter. In rheology, a material is defined as a liquid if it relaxes its shape to conform to its container within the time frame of observation.
Time frame of observation, that sounds important.
It is. There's a concept called the Deborah number. It's a dimensionless number that compares the relaxation time of a material to the time you spend looking at it. For water, the relaxation time is almost instant. For a rock, it's basically infinite.
And for a cat?
For a cat.
Oh.
If you wait long enough, the cat fills the sink. Its relaxation time is longer than water, but it's not infinite. So technically...
So Pi is validating the meme with rigorous physics.
Exactly. A cat has a Deborah number that makes it technically behave like a fluid in certain contexts. And then there's the non-Euclidean flexibility.
Let's unpack that for the non-math majors.
So Euclidean geometry is what you learned in high school. Flat planes, straight lines, parallel lines never meet. The angles of a triangle add up to 180 degrees. It describes a rigid, flat world.
And a non-Euclidean.
Non-Euclidean geometry deals with curved surfaces like spherical geometry on the surface of a globe, or hyperbolic geometry on the surface of a saddle. When a cat twists itself into a pretzel to lick its own spine, it is effectively acting as a curved surface. It's defying the rigid geometry of a solid object.
It's bending the rules.
It's bending space. Pi looks at that and sees complex topology.
Dave, ignoring the topology, tries to find a normal cat. He points to a fluffy white Persian and says, how about her? She looks like a cloud.
Nice image. Very Dave. Soft, harmless, pleasant.
Pi destroys it immediately. Too much surface area, the fur-to-body mass ratio is inefficient. Think of the vacuuming, Dave. The shedding would create a divergent series of dust bunnies. We'd never reach the limit.
A divergent series? That is a brutal, brutal takedown of a cat.
Explain that concept. What does that mean?
In calculus, you have infinite series lists of numbers you add up forever. If the numbers you're adding get smaller fast enough, the total sum eventually adds up to a specific finite limit. That's a convergence series.
It has an end.
It has an end. But if they don't, like if you add 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 forever, the sum just keeps growing to infinity, that's a divergent series. It never resolves.
So Pi is saying the shedding will never stop. It is an infinite, unsolvable problem.
It represents a maintenance task that has no solution. It's an efficiency nightmare. It's a task that will consume infinite resources.
So efficiency is key for Pi, and that leads him to the back of the room. Pi points to a cage and chooses a sphinx.
A hairless cat.
Dave is horrified. He says, it looks like a raw chicken.
Visual accuracy, 100%.
But Pi is in love. Pi exclaims. It represents zero, zero fur, zero friction. It's the null set of cats. It's pure, unadulterated skin topology. Look at the wrinkles, Dave. It's like a brain map. We can name them null.
The null set. In set theory, the null set, or the empty set, is the set that contains no elements. Pi sees the lack of fur not as a defect, but as mathematical purity. It's a cat reduced to its absolute essential variables.
Oh, mess.
No variables for shedding, no variables for grooming, just cat, the essential catness.
And skin topology.
We touched on this, but topology is a major field of math concerned with the properties of space that are preserved under continuous deformation, like stretching or twisting. A wrinkled sphinx cat is a topological masterpiece. It's all surface geometry. It's like looking at a topographical map of a planet.
Dave, however, is not a topologist. He says, I am not cuddling a null set. I want something fuzzy. I want something that doesn't look like it knows the date of my death.
That's the aesthetic clash again, isn't it? Dave connects fuzzy with life, warmth, and mammalian bond.
Right.
He connects the skeletal, raw look of the Sphinx with mortality. The Sphinx looks like a biological diagram. Pi likes diagrams because they are true. Dave dislikes them because they are clinical.
It's the difference between wanting a painting and wanting an X-ray.
That's a perfect way to put it.
So they leave the cat room in a stalemate. It seems hopeless. They're walking back to the front desk. And then it happens. They pass the special needs kennel. And the Pi stops. Dave. Halt. The turning point. Pi stares at a dog in the last cage. Listen to this description, because it's important. It was a mess. It was a mutt of indeterminate lineage. It had one ear that stood up and one that flopped down. Its tail was crooked. It had 3 white paws and 1 black paw. It was sitting at a weird, tilted angle.
Pure chaos. A biological glitch.
Pi whispers. It's irrational.
And there's the title of our story, The Penny Drops.
Dave looks at the dog. The dog sneezes, then immediately falls over. And Pi is delighted. It's asymmetrical, Pi notes. The ear variance implies a chaotic genetic history. The spot distribution on its back follows no known algorithm. It's completely unpredictable.
This is a profound moment for Pi. Up until now, Pi has been looking for clean math. The perfect sine wave of the snake. The zero set of the hairless cat.
Perfect solved equation.
Exactly. But now, Pi is finding beauty in messy math.
Why? Why does the irrationality of this dog appeal to someone who loves order so much?
Because irrational numbers are real. They are fundamental to the universe. You can't build reality with just integers, with just 1, 2, 3. If you draw a square with sides of length 1, the diagonal is the square root of 2.
Which is an irrational number.
It's one of the most famous ones. It goes on forever, never repeating. You literally cannot cross a room in a straight line without encountering irrational numbers.
So the integers are artificial. They are counting tools we invented.
Exactly. Irrational numbers, numbers that cannot be written as a simple fraction, represent the true underlying complexity of the real world. This dog is a puzzle that cannot be solved. It's not a 1 + 1 = 2. It's a square root of 2. It's real.
Pi says, he's a statistical outlier. He doesn't fit the standard deviation. He's just like me.
And that's the emotional hook. In statistics, the standard deviation measures how clustered data is around the mean, the average. Most dogs are average dogs. They have 4 legs, 2 matching ears they fetch. They're within the bell curve.
This dog is way out on the tail of the curve. He's a 3 sigma event.
He is. And Pi feels like an outlier, too. Pi doesn't think like Dave. Pi doesn't fit the average human interaction model. So seeing this dog that defies the algorithm, it's a moment of identification. Pi realizes this system is broken and beautiful just like me.
Dave asks a great question here. He says, so you like him, even though he's not a perfect circle? And Pi answers softly, perfection is boring, Dave. This dog is a complex fraction.
Complex fraction, a fraction where the numerator or denominator or both contain fractions. It's a mess. It's layers of mess.
And then this visual. Look, he's chasing his tail. He's trying to close the loop, but he keeps missing by a radian. He understands the struggle.
Missing by a radian. A radian is a unit of angle. There are 2 pi radians in a full circle, which is about 6.28. This dog is trying to complete the geometry of the circle, trying to catch the tail, but he can't quite close the loop. He's always off by a little bit.
Most people would see a dumb dog spinning in circles.
Pi sees a noble geometric struggle. Pi sees Sisyphus pushing the boulder. The dog is trying to solve the equation of the circle and failing, and Pi finds that failure beautiful because it's an attempt at perfection that creates chaos.
So they decide to get him. But now begins the negotiation of the name. And honestly, this might be the hardest part of pet ownership.
The naming convention. It defines the variable.
Pi wants chaos theory. Dave wants buddy.
Buddy is the most Dave name possible. It's functional. It describes the role. Chaos theory is the most Pi name possible. It describes the underlying mathematical principle of the dog itself.
They compromise. Dave suggests Theo, and Pi considers it Theo, short for theorem. Acceptable.
I love that. Do you know the difference between a theory and a theorem? It's subtle but important.
Enlighten me.
In science, a theory, like the theory of gravity, is a broad explanation for an aspect of the natural world that's been repeatedly tested and confirmed. In math, a theorem is a statement that has been proven to be true based on previously established statements, like axioms.
But a theorem starts as a proposition.
Right.
Something you have to work to prove.
Exactly. It implies a journey of discovery. You have to prove the theorem. Naming the dog theorem implies that this dog is a proposition that Pi intends to study. It's not just a pet. It's a rigorous proof that is yet to be completed.
They sign the papers, they walk out to the car, and we get to see Theo in action. The text says, Theo the dog tripped over his own feet, barked at a fire hydrant, and walked in a zigzag pattern.
A classic puppy walk, zero coordination, maximum inefficiency.
But watch how Pi reframes this clumsiness. Pi says, look at his vector. He's taking the scenic route. He's maximizing the distance relative to the displacement.
Okay, physics refresh. This is crucial to understanding how Pi sees the world. Distance is a scalar quantity. It's just how much ground you cover. Displacement is a vector quantity. It's how far you are from where you started in a straight line and in what direction.
So if I run around a track and end up back at the starting line,
Your distance is 400 meters. Your displacement is 0. You haven't actually gone anywhere relative to the start.
so Theo is zigzagging everywhere. He is sniffing the grass, running left, running right. He is covering a huge distance to move a very short displacement towards the car.
Most people, Dave included, call that inefficient. We value efficiency.
Yeah.
Straight lines, point A to point B.
Right.
Pi reframes it. Pi says he is maximizing distance. Pi is framing the clumsiness as a deliberate mathematical choice to experience more of the world. He's gathering more data.
It's a beautiful way to look at a mistake, or what we perceive as a mistake. Instead of you're wasting time, it's you are increasing your sample size of the world.
Exactly, Pi tells Dave. He's mathematically complex, Dave. You just don't understand his formula.
And isn't that love? Thinking that your chaotic, messy partner or friend or pet just has a hidden formula that the rest of the world isn't smart enough to understand.
It really is. It's granting someone the benefit of complexity. Instead of assuming they are broken, you assume they're operating on a higher level of math that you just haven't derived yet.
That is surprisingly touching.
It really is. It's a profound act of empathy, just framed in the language of math.
So they get to the car. Dave opens the door. Get in, Theorem. Let's go home. Pi asks, can he calculate the tip for us at dinner? Dave says no. Pi promises, I'll teach him. He has the eyes of a mathematician.
And then Dave delivers the final blow, the line that I think grounds the whole story in this beautiful, absurd reality.
Dave says, he has the eyes of a potato pie.
I laughed out loud at this. The eyes of potato, it's so descriptive, just blank, lumpy, starchy. There is no thought behind those eyes. It's the ultimate reduction.
But Pi gets the last word. And this is the final thought of the story, and I think it's the philosophical peak of our entire dive today. Pi says, a potato is a solid with infinite surface points, Dave. Don't be reductive.
Incredible. Even a potato. He defends the potato.
A solid with infinite surface points. Dave thinks Pi is just being pedantic, being difficult. But this is actually a reference to a very famous problem in mathematics, isn't it?
It is. It reminds me of the coastline paradox and the work of Benoit Mandelbrot on fractals.
The coastline paradox.
Right. If you ask, how long is the coastline of Britain? The answer depends entirely on the length of your ruler.
How so?
If you use a satellite view and a big ruler, you get one length. If you walk it with a yardstick, you have to measure every little inlet and every rock, so the total length gets much, much longer.
And if you measure it with a microscope?
You have to measure around every single grain of sand. The length goes towards infinity. Mandelbrot argued that real-world objects, clouds, coastlines, and yes, potatoes are fractal. They have infinite complexity the closer you look.
So when Pi looks at a potato,
Pi doesn't see a lump. Pi doesn't see a simple starchy vegetable. Pi sees a geometric object that, if you zoom in, contains infinite detail. There are infinite points on its surface. There is a whole universe of complexity there.
which is the ultimate rebuttal to Dave's worldview. Dave survives by reducing the world. He labels things. Dog, snake, potato. Labels make things manageable. Labels make things simple.
But Pi thrives by exploding those objects into their infinite components. Pi refuses to be reductive. To pi, nothing is mundane. Even the most humble, lumpy object in existence is a geometric solid with infinite complexity if you just look close enough.
So we've gone from the acoustic chaos of the entrance, past the symmetrical golden retriever, through the non-Euclidean cats, and ended up with an irrational dog and a potato with infinite surface points.
It's quite a journey, a real philosophical arc.
What's the big takeaway here for you? When you look at the story, what sticks?
I think it's the redemption of irrationality. We live in a world where we are constantly trying to optimize. We want the symmetrical dog. We want the predictable outcome. We want 1 + 1 = 2. We want the Dave experience.
Because it's safe. Because it's efficient. It feels like progress.
Because it's safe. But pi shows us that if everything is optimized, if everything is a solved equation, we lose the mystery. We lose the transcendental nature of life. The dog that trips over its own feet, the variable that oscillates, the outlier, that's where the interesting data is.
That's where the joy is, the surprise.
Exactly. Pi finds a way to love the mess by recognizing that the mess is just higher level math. The chaos has its own beautiful, complex, irrational logic.
I love that. So here is our challenge to you, the listener. Look around you today. Look at your pet, your messy desk, or that weird stain on the ceiling that you keep needing to paint over.
Don't just see the mess. Don't just see the entropy. Don't be reductive.
Right. Ask yourself, is it just a potato? Or is it a solid with infinite surface points that you just haven't calculated yet?
It's probably the latter.
Thanks for diving in with us. We'll catch you on the next one.
Keep calculating.
Oh, hit the like button and subscribe. And hit that damn bell.